What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Elijah, and today we're going to be talking about Cyberpunk and personally how I feel. Just a side note, I did go to E3. I did see some gameplay from Cyberpunk, and let's talk about it in this video. Alright, so if you guys didn't know, I did go to E3 this year. I flew to Los Angeles. It was sort of like my vacation, I guess you can say. I was super excited to go. I've always wanted to go to E3, so this is my year to go. I specifically went to E3 to see Cyberpunk 2077. I guess you can say like I'm a super fan of the game. All the way back in 2013 when they first announced it, I wanted more of the game. I wanted to know more and more, so I'm really glad that I was able to go. Alright, so like I said earlier in the video, quick disclaimer. I was not flown out to E3. I was not sponsored in any way. I spent my own money. Now, I know it's not cost effective to go to E3 to see one game, but like I said before, I'm a really huge fan, and I wanted to see it with my own eyes before the general public. Now, honestly, going to this experience, I wish I would have went to E3 last year to see the gameplay from last year, but luckily they did put it up on YouTube. So, like I said, we're going to talk about it. So for starters, the gameplay did start with a kind of like sort of glitchy background, and it said Cyberpunk 2077 in black letters, and it said press any key to continue. Now, when you start the game out, you're in like an office-like setting. You're kind of just sitting there, and you're male V, only because last year they used female V. Now you're sitting at a desk across from a guy named Placide, and for some backstory, Placide is part of the Voodoo Boys, and they're like the supremo macho hacker guys in the game. And their rival gang, I guess you could say, is called the Animals, and it's in a district called Pacifica. It's one of the 6 districts in the game. Last year's gameplay was in Central City, so it was a really nice to see a different part of the city and not just continue it in Central City. I really do hope that they don't show us all the districts, but they show us at least like 1 or 2 more so we can get like somewhat of a scale to see how big the city is. Now, I did hear them say that it's not gonna be like big as it is. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that the city is going to be big, but it's also going to be vertical. So it's not just going to be like, oh, hey, you can go out this far, but it's you can go out this far and you can go this high and you can do this thing. So basically, V was looking for a guy named Placide, and only because he wanted to see a girl named Brigitte, because he has a chip in his neck that's supposed to lead to everlasting knife. But Placide is like, no, you do the job now, then you see Brigitte. And he goes to reach for V's hand, but V pulls away. And CDPR tells us that everybody safeguards their jack, because if anyone can get to it, they can shut your body down, or they can like basically do some really bad things to you. So at this point, Male V pulls his hand away, and dialogue option, pops up. But it was more like it's like special choices. It was like a strength based one, which you didn't have enough strength for, and then like 3 your generic, like whatever ones. But they did say that depending on how you made your character up in the beginning, if you did like a street kid, or if you did a corporate espionage hacker guy, or you did like a different backstory, depending on your backstory, gives you different dynamic dialogue options in conversation and in other situations. So it was really nice to see, that dialogue option, in real time. So the player picks, a generic answer to not get Placide, upset, and he jacks in and then starts talking to V about the job, about how the Animals, the other gang, has basically taken over the mall, and that there's a van that Placide wants access to. But in our right peripheral vision, we see Johnny Silverhand, otherwise known as Keanu Reeves, basically saying, oh yeah, cool, someone else is in our head. But it was more or less like they gave you a certain amount of time, kind of like The Walking Dead, to pick an option, which honestly, I hope they dialed that down because it was going pretty fast. The speed that they had in The Walking Dead was perfect. It wasn't too fast. It wasn't too long. It was just right that if you were actively paying attention to the game, like you'd be able to get the right answer. You would be able to pick a nice, decent answer. All right. So, as Placide is talking about how he wants this to be like a stealth option and whatnot, a guy comes out of the back and he's talking to Placide, and another dialogue option pops up. But with this one, it was more or less like, you should probably go see what your people need, or you should probably go help them out. That was a special option, and it was highlighted in yellow, which basically means that we could pick on it, but the player didn't because basically it was just for presentation purposes only. So they just wanted to get through the conversation. So after that, Placide basically says that we're his vessel now, and that whatever we see and hear, he also sees, which is kind of weird, but I guess in order to see Brigitte, we have to do what's necessary. All right, so we leave the building, and we walk over to a motorcycle that was parked out there, and as we're walking over to it, we see this conversation happen. There's two people sitting near a car, and they're speaking Creole, but this was like a dynamic conversation, whereas for basically game-sake purposes, we have the right translation chip, so we can see what they're saying, but we only saw what they were saying if we looked in their direction. Kind of like a real conversation, but it wasn't like speech bubbles or dialogue options. It was more or less like we seen it in our left peripheral vision, and the conversation was happening in real time, which was a very, very nice touch, and I appreciate that CDPR went to the links that they did to make this happen. It's just small changes like that just make a game come together in a way better cohesive way. So we get on a motorcycle, and forgive me for not knowing the full name. It's been a couple days since I've seen the footage. It's something Kusanagi, but it looks like a badass bike, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to have way more badass bikes in the game. So as we move down the road and whatever, we come across this billboard that's basically showing what Pacifica was supposed to look like. It was supposed to be like these fancy pants, area with like a lot of shopping malls and fancy hotels, and that's where all the rich people were supposed to live, and it's supposed to be a really, really, really good life. But at the last minute, the investors pulled out, so now we're left with a dilapidated, run down area, and basically all of the rich people and all that cool stuff is in Central City, where all the corporations and stuff live. But the player basically looks up this billboard, and in the distance, we see what Pacifica looks like now and what Pacifica was supposed to look like. And that was a really cool, way of showing how, the world is not fucked, but how the world is now. So we basically move past that, and we come up to the mall parking lot where there are two, Voodoo Boys goons. And this is what really stood out to me, because normally, if you're on like a vehicle in the game, you have to get off the vehicle and then press a button to get into a conversation. But none of that happened. Mel V literally rode up to them, and the conversation started. And that also, nice touch, kind of like the conversation in Creole. It was just something that I personally thought was a good touch. So they're basically talking about how they seen two animals leave the mall to do something, and like a dynamic quest pops up, and it's more or less like, you should go see what they're doing type of thing. But it wasn't like, oh, this is in your quest log, you should go do this now. It was more, when I say dynamic quest, it was more like, it's not going to stay in your inventory. It's a quest like, you should either go do this now, or it's not going to be there later, which is something that I like in games, because it gives you a better role-playing experience, instead of like, oh yeah, I'll just do that quest later, and then when you do it, you're like, oh, why did I do this quest in the first place? All right, so we roll past the Voodoo Boy goons, and we basically go into the back, and two more animal guys come out, and they're basically talking in conversation about we should probably go and check out, why those Voodoo Boys are in our parking lot type of thing. All right, so there is another animal walking up the stairs with pizza, and we basically sneak behind him and chokehold him. But at this point, CDPR is talking about how there are dynamic ways to kill people, and that you can also play the game without killing people, which you could do that in Dishonored, but it was really, really, really freaking hard to do that. And I applaud people who have done that. I personally know one person who went through an entire playthrough, so I'm pretty sure they're going to do the same thing in this game. Eventually, I'll probably go for it in Cyberpunk, only because this is probably the only game that I want to do it in. But besides that, we chokehold the guy, we drag him over to the garbage chute, we bang his head, and we throw him in there, which, honestly, the game is rated M. There's nudity and a whole bunch of other violence, so that really didn't bother me. So we basically crouch down, and we're sneaking, and then we stop, because you see, like, a security camera. And at this point, Placida's like, yeah, you should probably, like, take that out. But in Cyberpunk, there's not necessarily the World Wide Web as we know it. It's more or less like different central networks that are now providing internet to that building. Basically, what happened is that a hacker had infected the internet, so the corporations basically put down what's called a black curtain. So instead of hacking something from your home, you have to find the central network in that building. So that's basically what Mel V does. He finds the network, and this is when CDPR basically tells us that it's like a hacking mini game. So if we get good at it, and over time, the better we get, the more rewards we get, and basically the more things that we can turn off. I thought that this was a really nice touch because it basically, makes people who want to be a completionist and basically turn everything off, it gives us that option. So as we turn off the security camera and we basically, walk through the corridor and move forward, we see an animal that's boxing with a boxing bot. And if, most people who've seen the trailers have noticed that in the trailer, there is what we didn't know at the time was an animal boxing. And we have the ability to override the safety on the boxing bot, and the boxing bot literally punches a dude's head off. Like, I'm not kidding. The boxing bot literally punches his head off. It was awesome. So as the animals are basically walking and hovering over his body, we sneak around the boxing ring and we see another animal lifting weights. So they basically hack the weights and make the weights so heavy that it basically falls on the Voodoo Boy, and we don't know if it killed him or knocked him out or whatever. But, we also walk up the stairs and we see, two Voodoo Boys talking about how they want to get a drink and how they're thirsty. So we hack the machine, and as they're turning around to go to the machine, we pull out like this bright orange wire that we then, whip at both the animals, and it basically cuts off one dude's leg and cuts off another guy's head. It wasn't cool, but I can see why they used it. But at this point, CDPR is talking about, hey, this won't be in the game, but we're basically going to use some developer magic, and we're going to switch to female V. So basically, we go all the way back to the beginning, where we're at the node control panel for the internet in the building, and instead, V basically like wedges her hands into the door and basically pries it open and rips it off its hinges. They told us that female V in this save of the game is strength based, so there's a lot of things that she can do that Netrunner male V can't do. So she rips off one door, she rips off another door, and then basically she gets spotted by an animal, and basically gunfire and stuff happen, and she gets into like a firefight with some of the animals. She chokeholds a guy, snaps the dude's neck, and then uses him as like a meat shield. Because there's like a machine gun firing at her. But she then gets over to the machine gun. Well, first she turns it off, and then she rips it out of its, holder, whatever you want to call it, and uses it to spray down other people. After about 5 more minutes of gunfire or whatever, they switch back to Metal V, and Metal V basically had, in air quotations, snuck his way to the van. But as, he's, hacking into the van or whatever, the rival hacker knows he's there and basically tries to shut him off, but Placide, takes effect and says, "No, you're good. I saved you," type of thing. At this point, we're about like 20-ish minutes in, and they basically like tease us on what's to come later on in the game, and then they're like, "Yeah, thank you guys for coming. We're really excited to show you more gameplay later on as the time comes up to release." And from what I've seen so far of the gameplay, I am really excited for, the full game and what they're going to give us as, time is coming. Now, I was excited, but now I'm super excited for the game. I haven't been this excited about a game since what? Honestly, I have never been excited about this game at all. Like, I was excited about Division 2, but I wasn't like, oh my goodness, this game's going to be awesome. Like, I took 2 days off for Division 2. I took 4 days off for Cyberpunk. Like, that's how excited I am. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know or ask me in the comments. Hit me up on Twitter, and like I said, I'll answer any questions that you guys have. I had a really, really fun time at E3. I'm really glad I went. But like, as always, it's been your boy Elijah. Make sure to tell your friends about the channel. Make sure to like, subscribe to my channel, and as always, yay. Oh, quick side note. So, there were 2 types of gameplay at the event at E3. The 25-minute demo that you waited in line for, basically, I waited 2 days in line because people literally lost their shit over this. Like, the line was capped both days. Literally. Like, I had to wait 2 days to see the gameplay. Now, the media presentation demo was basically our demo plus about 20 minutes. So it was more like, you seen the player customize V, you seen his inventory, you seen V shop, and then you seen where Placide took you. So we really didn't miss anything. If you've seen the E3 gameplay, you basically seen everything. You just missed that part. But you'll be able to see the actual hour-long quotation gameplay before Gamescom. But I just wanted to put that in there. I almost forgot to say that. But yay.